History is astonishing, isn't it? There are several enigmas that deserve being answered. One interesting question we can bring up regarding the conquest of America is the following. How could an army of 200 of conquerors dominate vastly 6 million of people in a matter of days? Along the time, some answers were elaborated to solve this question. It was because the Castellanos were better fighters. It was because they were better strategists, or even, others said, it was because they were Spaniards at the end. In this video we are addressing the reasons that might shed some light on this issue. The first thing we must clarify is pre-Columbian societies were quite different among them. As you know, on one hand, there were a reduced amount of large empires characterized by a complex social structure, and on the other hand, there were small and numerous tribes of hunters-gatherers. What if I told you that although Castellanos were able to dominate the large empires easily in a matter of days, they struggled and were defeated by small tribes? Isn't it paradoxical? Well, let me highlight the reasons that might explain this current state of affairs. The tactic the Castellanos thought to beat them easily was attacking their gut, meaning their king. Once it had been defeated, the rest of the society gave up. Does it make sense, right? If your gut, the most powerful entity of the world, is being defeated, would you fight against the people that had beat him up? Won't you be afraid of them? Yeah, for sure. Most notably if they have some things that you can't even understand, for instance, the military equipment they had. Also, we must remember the difference between an empire and a kingdom. One empire controls other territories besides the one in which it is established. If we were an Spanish kingdom, our borders wouldn't exceed Los Pirineos, would they? However, if we were a Spanish empire, our territories would go beyond them. As every empire, Aztec, Mayans, and Incas not only dominated the territories that didn't belong to them, but also they imposed a strict military control over the populations in order to take their resources and to force them to pay taxes. That's why the pre-Columbian empires had several rivals before the arrival of Columbus. Do you know the sentence, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend," right? That's right. What could you do if you were a person that wanted to conquer an empire that has already enemies? That's right, you would ally yourself with the enemies in order to beat the empires easier, wouldn't you? The conquistadores took advantage of these rivalries, recruiting groups of indigenous fighters that were dominated by that empires previously. Finally, the last fact to consider is the military equipment. If you were about fighting in a war to defend your country, which of the following weapons would you choose? An spear made of wood and leather? Or maybe firearms, armor and horses? That's right. The technology in general and the better weapons in particular was a factor that meant a superiority over the pre-Columbian population. As we have just said, paradoxically, despite the fact the Castellanos defeated easily and fastly the large pre-Columbian empires, they struggled with the small tribes. For instance, although they conquered the Aztec Empire, they weren't able to dominate the Mapuche tribe. If we wanted to know the reasons by which these facts happened, we would say the following. Tribes were not as hierarchical as the empires, so the tactic of attacking the leader wouldn't work in this case. Also, the superiority of the European technology works in urban places, but not in the jungle. For instance, the cavalry charges were impossible and the humidity made the gunpowder useless. Finally, tribes were not centralized in terms of space. They were not an empire but several settlements that were not united but dispersed. I hope you find useful this video to understand not only the contents of this unit, but also to make you think about history. Should you have any question, please don't you hesitate about leaving a message below. And well, see you soon, dear students.